So we're nearly at the end of November, and we are now cruising into what is officially known as awards season. This is the season in which we start to see films that are for your consideration, when you start to see movies being shaken down that are basically going to make up the nominations for the forthcoming awards season, the BAFTAs, the Golden Globes, and of course the Oscars. As I'm sure you know, I have my own little award ceremony, the Kermode Awards, and they were put together because I was really fed up with the kind of movies that were overlooked and neglected by the Oscars. And I came up with this idea that it was possible to get a better list of winners from filmmakers and films which weren't even nominated for Oscars, films which weren't even in the running for Oscars. And every year, as the Kermodes come around, I start to wonder whether this is going to be the year that the Oscars are going to bowl a googly, they're going to catch me out, they're going to nominate the films and filmmakers that I really like. And every year, without fail, they manage to get it wrong. I remember being really worried because I loved Christopher Nolan's Inception, and I really wanted to give him the Kermode Award for Best Director. I was convinced the Academy were going to nominate him. Of course they were. How can you imagine a situation in which Chris Nolan wasn't nominated for Inception, and then he wasn't? Going back to, I think, the first year of the Kermodes, when Werner Herzog's Grizzly Man, clearly the best documentary of the year, wasn't allowed to be nominated for an Oscar on a technicality. Or what about The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, another movie completely overlooked by the Oscars, but which was a Best Picture winner here at the Kermodes? Well, the Oscar season has kicked off, and I'm happy to tell you that on the evidence of what we know so far, Oscar is well on course to get it all wrong once again. How do I know this? Because the long list for the contenders for the Best Documentary category has been announced, and guess what's not in it?
Oh my goodness, this is fantastic!
Senna, one of the most exciting, exhilarating, inventive, emotional, engaging films of the year, has been ruled out of the running for this year's Best Documentary Oscar.
We are competing to win. And if you no longer go for a gap, you're no longer a racing driver.
Now Prost takes the lead. Senna is trying to go through on the inside.
Now, you may remember halfway through the year, I did a roundup of my best and worst films so far. Senna was right in there. I mean, I love TT 3D, in 2D, obviously. But Senna was one of those documentaries that did that thing that great documentaries are meant to do, interest you in a subject in which you had no interest in the first place. It's a human story. It's an engaging story. It's an involving story. Even if you don't care about motor racing, which, let's face it, I don't. More importantly, it wasn't just me who thought this. Critics loved the film, as did audiences. It took very healthy numbers both here and across the pond. And yet somehow the dimwits at the Oscars have decided that it's not in the running for a Best Documentary Oscar, which means as far as the Kermode shakedown, we've got one very strong contender already. You know, suddenly I feel kind of good about the forthcoming awards season.
Pure driving, real racing. That makes me happy.